Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcast can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, posts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now and join the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's podcast series, The Weekly Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekis. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, follow, comment, share, whatever you do best. And also follow us on your podcast wherever you listen. Today, we have a professional intuitive that has traveled all over Texas and is moving further out into the U.S. and beyond. Her client base includes film and television producers, CEOs, people in the medical, legal, criminal justice, and government spaces. And not to forget living and have passed. Aha. Her group, Traveling Psychic Supper Club, started in Austin, Texas over 13 years ago with a 2-line free event ad in the Austin Chronicle. Let's welcome to the show today, Traveling Psychic, Deborah Antich. Welcome.
That's me, Deborah Antich, Traveling Psychic. You got it.
Aha. So, energy's been weird today, and it has been as we've been kind of getting the show, trying to get it recorded, and it's like, there's something weird going on. Yeah. So
till the very last second. I mean, like, I was like, is this going to happen today? We'll see. So here we are.
Yes. So we're going to start the show off by talking about some very exciting news of what you have been doing out in the world. Yeah. And I'd like you to share and explain all the goodies and terrific news that you got.
Okay. I'm just like, okay, where do we start? So Supper Club is still happening. It happens a little bit less frequently than it did, but I'm actually doing a lot more like online, as much as I'm not a fan of that, but we can have more people involved that way. So we still are meeting locally. I'm just moving into like doing some tarot stuff locally, and I really love fun stuff. And I feel like intuition should be integrated into that. So I don't want anyone to think like, oh, I have to have gone through some crazy trauma in my life to be able to work with Deb. That's not true. I do usually do the deeper work though. Like people that are like, oh, I want to know what my life is going to bring, or, oh, am I going to get this job? Those are not usually the people that reach out to me. It's usually people that are in like mode, and they need like they're trying to unpack things, or they're just like, hey, I am at this weird intersection in my life. And so that weird intersection, I've started to do a lot more. And it's funny too, because when I saw the name of your show, I was like, I don't really know if that's like for me, because the word seance is in there. But it is moving into being a lot more for me now, because I'm doing a lot more work with those past. Yeah. And not in the way of like sitting at a table and holding hands. I mean, like they're just always here, and they're like, hey, Deb, hey, Deb, hey, Deb. Did you talk to this person yet, Deb? Hey, Deb, hey, Deb. And so that's very much, it's like what I see in my head. Like I see in pictures a lot. And so what I see in my head, it's like a river that someone moved like a boulder out of the way. So like here in Texas, we have flash floods. So like a flash flood, you'll have a river that just looks like this, but there's water coming from further, down the way. Yeah. And that's what it feels like. It just feels like somebody went boop and took a barrier out of the way. And now it's just like, I'm literally kind of having to be like, okay, guys, please not get in line, because I feel like that's very rude to those past, but just like, can you guys maybe take a number, because I want to work with the ones that have the most pressing matters right now. So
yeah, priority first.
yeah. And kindness. Like, I feel like it's really important for me to be kind to them, because they're showing up to help me with the work. And I want to be like respectful to them, because they're taking time out of their experience too, to show up to help us. So yeah.
Now, you've also been recently working in some tragic zones.
Yeah.
A little bit about that.
So after and this is really a lot of getting pulled, or like what I'm seeing is like getting flown into certain places, although I'm definitely not flying anywhere right now. I'm just driving, just within Texas. But after the Allen shooting, I also work in the recovery and substance use disorder space, the mental health space, which also has its own trauma levels involved with anyone that's helping anybody else. And I reached out to one of my colleagues, and she was just very flustered. And it was a regular day for me. And I said, hey, how are you doing? And she said, well, it's been a rough, 24 hours. And they were providing trauma support to the community after the Allen shooting. And that took place here probably a month or so ago, maybe longer, I'm not sure. But I just said, like, how can I help? What can I do? And I play alchemy crystal bowls. And so I literally just I don't throw my bowls anywhere, but I placed them gently and lovingly in my car and just drove out there. I did some work with another center while I was out there, and I literally just like wake up in the morning, whatever is in front of me, that's what I do. And so that's what was in front of me. I moved some things around, and I just went out there and did my work. I did the work to help others through their work.
Yeah, helping people in that really stressful, and it don't have to be people that were directly involved, but those,
right?
Because when other people see other people in tragedy, whether they're neighbors or people they don't know within their community, that tragedy happens in their neighborhood.
Yeah,
it becomes tragic to everybody, because we're all picking up on that energy.
That's right, and that's one of the reasons why I don't watch a lot of news. I just can't have that stuff like constantly bombarding me, which is I knew about the Allen shooting because literally my mom sent a message out to me and all my siblings saying, don't go to the Allen outlets. And so a lot of times I learn about stuff like that from my family, because they're all in that area. I'm in Austin, but they're up in the Dallas area. And so that's how I even knew anything was going on, and to later turn on the TV to just pay attention to it. So, I mean, honestly, a lot of the stuff that happens, unless it's close to home and someone tells me about it, I just don't. It's not that I don't pay attention to it. It's just that with the work that I do, I can't have all those extra layers of like pain and tragedy on top. But you're right. It does. It's like it radiates out like an atomic bomb, and we've got a bunch of things radiating out from a lot of places right now. And so there's all this overlap happening. And it really is, it's like people ask me all the time, like, how much more is there going to be? Like, I can't take much more, especially in those helping places. And I'm not saying that about the people in Allen, because they were incredible and they were doing the work. They were, the thing is with people that work in trauma is they don't get the luxury of stopping because somebody else needs you again. And so it literally is kind of like COVID, like where the nurses would go home and like just take everything off, take a shower and like put new stuff on and just go back out into the field. It's like that. it's like that out there. It's really rough right now for trauma workers and first responders and recovery coaches and peer support in general. It's just really hard.
Yeah. Now, as an example, when you're going out to one of these areas, especially the Allen shooting, how would you set up your work? You work with the bowls. You set up like an area, a private area to work with people, or
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's a really great question. Like, I appreciate you asking me that because, when things really started happening a while back, I just thought, okay, I'll just take them and play. But now I'm having people reach out to me and say, we want you to come here for this purpose. So like actually I was supposed to go and play in Uvalde after the Robb elementary. And it's in the trauma space. It's called disaster, like after that disaster, and some things happened where I actually had gotten sick and I was not physically able to go. And sometimes when things like that happen, kind of like when I was saying like, man, this call might not happen between you and me because sometimes there's things that are happening to like either push it back or, make it. And I know now I'm like, okay, this needed to happen now after some other things happened. But, I just had originally seen me like playing like in the space, but now, it's more pointed. Like whenever someone calls me, it'll be like to play in an office. So, or like a space indoors where the public can come to. Yeah. And so especially like right now, it's like 110 degrees here in Texas. We're having this bonkers heat wave. Yeah. So what we did was I just had a room and they had actually been taking headshots for the staff in there. So there was like kind of like a background like this, but just blue. And so I took some of my stuff, like I keep my bowls in the cases and they have covers that I keep on each one of them that are like scarves kind of. So I just kind of made it softer. We changed the lighting. They brought in some yoga mats. I don't know why that word is so hard for me to say, but, and we just made a really comfortable space. And some people wanted the blinds open, some people wanted them closed. And every single group of people that came through, sometimes it was just like a couple of people, sometimes it was more, but it was like, I always felt like I beg your pardon. The bowls know what to do for the people that are in front of me right now because they always know what to do. I just follow their lead. Yeah,
and you pull them in as groups or individual.
No, this time I was there for a couple of days, and like I would have one. I just did like 30-minute sittings, and sometimes it was longer. If they needed more. Because some people would come in and it was just like, cool, got what I needed, the end. And then some people would really start to need to dig into things and not really related to the disaster, but more like the things that were going on in their lives. And so it was really, I was really surprised by that because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be hearing all these really like gory, awful things of like, because a lot of people had been working with people that were eyewitnesses at the scene. And I just was like, okay, let me prepare myself for this. But it was actually it was more stuff that maybe had been on their minds that they wanted to process because this, it's kind of like whenever somebody dies and everybody says, hug your loved ones tighter, like keep the people around you that mean something to you. It was more that type of feeling than, oh my God, like I need to now barf all this awful stuff that I just took in onto you. So it was just like a really like this, like it's going to sound like not corny because I don't want to say that, but it's going to sound kind of like kumbaya-ish, but it was very healing. I mean, it was healing for them and so therefore it's also healing for me. So every group is different. Every individual is different, just like a reading. Like I've never had two readings that were exactly the same, True.
And when it comes to differences, I mean, there's so many people out there that are skeptical when it comes to this type of work, this energy work, and it's all hoodoo or it's all witchcraft, blah 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 blah. And
I just had that happen to me.
and I'm,
Yes.
and I'm sure most of the people who would watch this show would be like, I'm not like, nah. Otherwise, they wouldn't be watching the show or listening to it. How was it received before? Like, people, did you get any of that? Like, I don't know what that is.
No, but here's why.
After.
Here's why. Because, and I didn't show up as a psychic. I showed up as someone that has been trained in trauma, someone that has got letters behind my name, that is in the mental health space, that's in the substance use disorder space. And just luckily, like, there's a lot of overlapping for that with me. And so I just showed up to help heal. And it always, I always say, like, I look at things through the lens of intuition, and whether it's out or in. And so I just showed up as a helper. That's really, I kind of took my pack off my back and unloaded and set up. And I was like, what can I do for you? And so for some people, we would get into the intuition talk, or I would have people say, like, do you do readings? Like, I kind of get the feeling that you, like, maybe do some other stuff. And I was like, yeah I do, and then, but it was interesting because I didn't go in there with that intention, like, at all, to talk about that. But where it came up naturally, it was part of the conversation for sure. And I love it because when people are in the place where they are hurting so much that they're at a breaking point, they really don't care where the healing comes from. They will accept it. And so it's not like I showed up, with like a drape over my head and like a witch's hat, or, I didn't show up with, an evil eye necklace on or something like that. It was just, this is how I showed up. And, it was like, I am a person sitting in front of another person. I can provide healing, or I can provide a sounding board, and I will hold space for you where you are. I will meet you where you are, and I will provide for you what I can with the most earnest, what I always say is with the best possible, with the intent for the intent for the best possible outcome for all involved. Period. Like, and people will get mad at me for saying this, for like, even for the shooter and his family, because there are people on that side that are hurting too. I mean, there's so much that we're learning, like the research about why people do these things. And it really is because they're in pain. And it, like, hurt people. It's like, if we could dig into, like, what is happening before something like this happens. And I think we're getting there. I think that especially like people that do work like I do, we're talking and we're communicating and saying, like, okay, because a lot of intuitives are getting information from those past right now. I mean, it's getting to be more and more and more. And so we're coming together and we're talking about it. We are having discussions about how can we help the people that are here on the planet better with what people that have passed, with the knowledge that they are giving us right now. And there's people all over the world that are doing this. So yeah,
it's trying to prevent stuff like this is very challenging, and we never know who they're going to be. It can be anybody. It could be your neighbor.
Yeah.
It could be a family member.
It can be your son. Yeah. It can be your, it's what we're seeing mostly is males, but I mean, at some point it could be a woman, right? I mean, there's no one size fits all for this. I mean, we've seen children take guns to school, but the thing that's always behind it is pain. Is pain. And I hear from a lot of people, especially recently, first responders, anger. Anger that is not being processed, that is then being like blown back out to communities. And I'm not saying from first responders. I'm saying from people that have either been victimized in the past or have witnessed victimization, and they don't know what to do with that. And, or they're, I'm doing a lot more research now about how a lot of the shooters, the trigger or what that activated them was that their women left, or there was a possibility that they were going to lose a relationship. And I just read a really fascinating article that said that shooters practice on their families first. So a lot of times you'll hear that somebody that goes on to shoot publicly a mass shooting has killed their family members right before going out to do it, or has been domestic violence has been an issue with this person. So there are indicators, but it's the things that nobody talks about, for whatever reason. I know this is not the direction that we thought this would go in, but like this, it's true.
Yeah, it's important, and it's important too.
Yeah.
And on the other, it's not the flip side, but part of it is bullying. Bullying was a subject months, if not a few years ago, and it kind of fizzled off. And I don't hear it in the media anymore.
Yeah.
But they used to talk about it all the time.
Yeah. But think
that's
about
another big one too, is bullying.
So those kids from that time period are growing up. Mm-hmm. So where do they put that anger? And sometimes you'll hear a child that has been victimized, then turning around and taking it out on somebody that is smaller than them, younger than them, an animal, a family dog. And so these are really big indicators of not processed anger. Yeah.
And it's another level of healing that definitely needs to be done. They may not think so, but there's always something built up that we're hiding underneath within the psyche that gets released with a trigger, and we don't know, no pun intended.
Right.
But there is a trigger for it that it's almost like it's like MK Ultra back in the day, when the CIA would give that candidate a particular trigger word, and it would just open up.
Yeah. And you're not far off the mark. It might be a word, mm-hmm. because I've had experiences where I've heard a word that took me back to something else. Yeah. Or olfactory, like our noses are so connected to memory. You'll smell a smell that takes you right back to your grandma's house, or when you were on vacation at the beach when you were 10. So, using the word trigger, like in the mental health and SUD space, we use the word activate, and it's the same. They mean the same thing. Yeah. It's creating the opening for something to come in, something to get opened and maybe processed if the opportunity is there, but maybe pushed out in a violent way. Yeah, so this is a really good discussion. I'm glad we're having it.
Absolutely. So then I didn't want to get off topic because we're rolling.
Yeah, I know.
Now, is this is this the first case that or do you have any ones prior? Any other?
No. It's interesting because I'm going to tell you this quick short story to kind of set this other thing up. So I was working with a medium that was doing classes here in Austin. God, maybe 10 years ago, maybe longer. He had a group that was meeting, and we were all doing exercises together. And we did one that it was supposed to be reading someone's aura. And so he turned all the lights off. We had a red light behind something. So the room was very, very dark, but you could still kind of see outlines. And so I looked at this woman. I was supposed to be reading her aura, but what happened was like this little movie started playing in my mind. And what I saw was, she was, and how I knew this, I still have no way of explaining how I know some of the things I know. I just know them. And so it was a long time ago. She was she was part of like a king's court, like as an advisor. Okay. So like that far away, in time. And she had run up the stairs into like a small room, and whoever it was came in, like busted through the door and came in, and she was, not shot because it wasn't a gun. It was like a spear, but not a spear. It was, something pierced her shoulder here and came out the backside. And so when I told her that, I said, what I get from you, I was like, I guess this is like a past life. Like, can I talk about this? Because I know we're supposed to be talking about auras. And they were like, yeah, dude, for sure. Right. And so I started telling her the story that I had seen. And I was like, it felt like you lived a very isolated life, not like kept away from everybody else, and that you died from this wound. So you basically died alone. You'd been running for your life. And she was like, wow. So she said, I'm a potter, like, throws pottery or whatever, and on a wheel. And she was like, I live a very isolated existence. And I don't really like to be around people. And she said, I actually have she said, I've had it for a long time. Like, I have a pain in my shoulder that is in the front and also in the back. Wow. And I was like, well, just so you know, that was from this time period, and probably other time periods too, because I've got some things that my body has held. And one of the things for me is literally in that same spot, I have been shot. And it was a very pointed, but with a very big, explosion, for lack of a better word, on the back. And so I've had a lot of problems with my shoulder, the back and the front of it. And so that, I was like, oh, I guess that was like a past life of hers. But whenever we talked about it, she was like, this is very healing for me to understand some of where that came from. And so I was just kind of like, okay, good, okay. But so, and then I went on, so I also read Akashic Records, and I went to go get certified to do it because at the time I was like, oh, I need to have certifications in this, and this. Really what I needed was the lived experience. It's not the letters behind the name. But so, but when I went to go get certified in that, it was a very dear friend of mine, named Maria Benning, who was doing that class. And I was doing it, and I was just like, I already do this. Like, this is not, I'm not learning, I'm remembering. And so whenever we did it though, she said, okay, go home tonight. I want you guys to all, go into your own Akashic Records. And when I did that, I was shown a life that it really pissed me off. I mean, I came back and I was like, so, hey guys, I'm trying to learn this for the purpose of helping, and this is what you show me. Like I really don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And I mean, I almost just left the class. But so sometimes we can be like, people that read the records can also be taken back to things that aren't exactly cool, but like it's something for us to work through right then and there. And it was very closely connected to a relationship with someone that I'm very close to in my life. And so I was like, oh, this helps me understand what this relationship is about, and some of the resentments that are there, and some of the things that I have done without even realizing this was harming this person, because this all goes back to the past. So I've probably been doing this kind of work with Akashic Records for like 10 years, maybe 11 years. I don't remember what your original question was. I'm sorry, but I feel like maybe hopefully that answers.
I lost it too.
I know, dude. Sometimes I talk for a really long time, and I apologize. Like, I don't give you a lot of space to ask questions.
Well, I have a really cool question, because I've been asked this a couple times, and the subject has come up a couple times. So I want to get your opinion. And so when it comes to past life injuries and things that have happened within a past life, specifically like you mentioned about, getting hit in the shoulder and whatnot. And
Yeah.
when these things happen in your current lifetime, especially when something comes out of the blue, like, oh, wow, all of a sudden I got a pain in my shoulder or a pain in my gut. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? And the doctors really can't find anything. They're just like, I don't know, maybe it's arthritis.
Yeah.
But when it shows up at a very particular point in your current lifetime, like say you just turned 35 or 45, and then suddenly this happens.
Yeah.
That is running parallel to the time or the age that it happened in that particular lifetime.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've had, and I've actually had people show up and be like, I don't want to do this again. Like cause it does, it's like it, and I was just talking to somebody else about this, how sometimes things like sudden things that happen shake other things loose. And so it's like when you're talking, like, so I see pictures in my head. I know I've said it like 3 times, but like, so I also have autism. And so people have asked me before, well, do you think you're autistic because you're intuitive, or do you think you're intuitive because you're autistic? I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me, but I think that autism is definitely contributes to how I see in pictures. And so whenever I hear you say that, what I see is like a life or something in life that needs to like have the dust blown off of it, or like has to be, because like what I see is almost like a crystal ball, and like it needs to be like, I literally am like trying to do this right now, so like I'll show you. So like I have this it's not a crystal ball, but it's actually black tourmaline.
Okay.
It's tourmaline.
It almost looks like the labradorite.
It's similar, but it's black tourmalinated quartz, and it
That's right. Yep.
it transmutes negative energy to positive energy. So, but like what I'm seeing is like somebody like cleaning it off. Like there's a crystal ball. Not trying to be like psychic about this, but this is just what I'm seeing. And it's like, but actually that makes sense, because I just got this book on scrying, and it's very much about like being able to look through something into something else. Yeah. So maybe a crystal ball is appropriate, or like, a crystal, like something that just needs to be activated, I think is the word for this podcast that you and I are making right now. Because it is about activation, but then it's also like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? And that's the thing, is like a lot of people, because they're not really paying attention to their bodies or to their experiences, don't have, and this is not me like throwing shade at anybody, but it's just saying, because people aren't usually paying very much attention, they don't know what it's regarding. Like if somebody's in a job, I'll use this example because I've done this before. If someone's in a job that is killing them, either because it's their mental health is deteriorating or physically they're deteriorating, and like things will start happening to be like, don't do this anymore, stop doing this job, leave this job, and it will ratchet, like what I consider ratchet up to where the person is like, okay, I have to do something. And sometimes it will be like someone will be placed on disability. Yeah. That is not listening to what's happening. And I mean,
or
I know
mental breakdown. Somebody like just goes nuts, like, oh.
Yeah. So. Well, and that did happen to me. Like I can speak to that because I had a bunch of different things overlap, and I had never had major depression in my life. And I went into a major depression where when I came out of it, I was like, I'm not doing any of this anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's really when I started doing, honestly, exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I quit working for somebody else. I started putting my stuff out there more. Also, and I've got a group called HOLO. It's about it's helping others live on, and it's fentanyl education and substance use education. And it's like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And like, I don't even get paid for that, but I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And the money will come from somewhere else. And it does. But I think that's the thing is people, you have to have something almost life-threatening to really be like, oh crap, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And it can be getting busted on a drug charge. It can be, hitting somebody in a DWI, or getting hit on a DWI, or losing a job, or losing a house, or all those different things are traumas. Mm-hmm. But they happen because we're not listening, or they just happen bam out of nowhere. And people are like, I have no idea where that came from. And then they'll come to me and I'm like, are you kidding me? Because like you've had all these different things happening, but they can't recognize it. I tell people all the time, sometimes you have to hear it out of somebody else. Like it has to come up through my vocal cords, through my mouth. My tongue makes the sounds to go to your ear, for it to come in your ear and for you to process it differently. Because if you have it just rolling around in your head, it's just rolling around in your head. But sometimes when I say the words, it connects with what's in your head and you're like, oh, well, that makes so much sense. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
And that's not me trying to be ugly. That's just, we're human. Sometimes we need other people's input and to be able to bounce things off of people because, that's what the Supper Club is about. It's like, I started that so that first of all, the people that I was reading, a lot of times their readings are connected to each other, even if it's from years ago. And that reading will pop up and I'm like, oh, this is for this person now. And that was happening. And so I just like, hey, these people should meet each other. Like, I'm just going to start having like an open dinner once a month at a local restaurant and these people can meet each other. Because if they're working through similar processes and issues, why, like, it would be great if they could know each other. So that's where and you don't have to like at a dinner, you don't have to be like, oh, this is going to sound crazy. Like, I don't want anyone to hear me. And we've had dinners, actually, we had a dinner at the Driscoll and, which is like a hugely famous haunted hotel here, which used to kind of be like my home base. And, we would have people come by and be like, oh my God, what are you guys talking about? Like, I had an experience and I want to talk. The waiters, like the wait staff, people would come by and be like, so Matt, our server, just told us you guys were talking about this. And oh my God, like, I want to tell you about something that happened to me. And I'm like, come to a dinner. Like, they're open to the public. Like, come and talk about it because we have to talk about these things. We have to. They're there. And there's people like me everywhere, and asking the question like, do people ever not want to connect with me because I'm psychic or intuitive or whatever? There are more of us in regular everyday life doing regular everyday work that don't put themselves out as intuitives. And I meet them all the time. So, and people say, oh, well, religion, you know how many Christian clients I have? A lot. Okay. Like a lot. And so, whenever people are like, but I'm Christian, I'm like, so like that doesn't have anything to do with it at all. And, somebody just recently came at me about that and they were needing me to say these certain words. And I was like, I already told you, like, first of all, I don't have to tell you anything. It's not your business. And actually, it's a rude question that you're asking me because my relationship with any other being, physical or not, on the planet or outside of the planet is really like my own business. Mm-hmm. But it was like, they just could not hear what I was saying. And I finally just ended the conversation. I was like, you've told me what you have let me know exactly that you are hearing some of what I'm saying, but you're not, because you're afraid of other things that I do, that you are not going to, you're only going to come so far with me. And you have.
Yeah.
So have a great day.
Yeah. Their beliefs are holding them from wanting to actually really truly.
Or training. Honestly, it's training. So,
indoctrination.
From anywhere. You know, I mean, there's so many things that hold people back that is just they're doing it the traditional way that their parents did before them and then their parents did before them. And I'm like, this is not what's working anymore. I mean, you watch any documentary on Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, you'll see this, it's falling apart. And I mean, like I always said, I'm here for the rebuild. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm here for the next step. I'll
Nice.
give you the space to ask me some questions because I know I've been like blah 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 blah.
Now, as far as your website, people can check out your work and get a hold of you too. You have a website,
Yeah.
traveling psychic supperclub.com. Let me put that up
Yes.
on the let me put that
Yes.
ticker up that way people can actually see it. But those who are going to listen to the show, it's www.travelingpsychicsupperclub.com.
That's right.
So.
And you can follow me on Instagram too. That's just at Traveling Psychic. And I post a lot of what I'm doing there. Like I post little readings or like daily cards, not daily. I'm not that disciplined, but, yeah. Or like if I'm going to be somewhere, sometimes I'll post it, you know, if I'm traveling around, I travel around Texas a lot, but, starting to move a little bit further out. Like I'm going to Florida later in the summer. But yeah, you can connect me with me there or through the website.
Cool.
Or
well,
Facebook.
if you're in Florida, let me know. I'm smack dab in the center of the state.
Why didn't I know that? I will definitely do that. I will definitely do that. We'll have to get together and like do this in person.
Yeah. Do a studio recording.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So, yeah. So how did the you did briefly talk about the supper club and how did it start? What actually sparked you creating the supper club?
Okay, there's kind of two different answers to that. Like I said, I was having readings and just really being shown that the people that I was reading were connected to each other through their information.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think this was later, but like I saw that it was going to be more of a road show kind of deal, like getting out more and really like traveling more because we were just staying in like the Austin, Dallas, Houston area, and so my neighbor had somebody in town for Thanksgiving, and they had one of those like super badass like driving coaches that kind of looks like a bus, like the luxury kind.
Oh,
and I walked outside on my front porch and I saw that, but I saw it wrapped with Traveling Psychic Supper Club. And I was like, I like this idea. Like I can get on board with this. And so that's kind of what made me really keep pushing it and taking it further. And now I actually do have a camp. I have a little camper. It's a little vintage 1955 Can-Am, and I can travel and do markets with that. I can do pop-ups with it. Like I've got some things scheduled throughout the summer, and it has an air conditioner in it, so it's great for people that are like at an outdoor fair. They can come in and get a reading and close the door and get cool. So and like that's really cool because I'm finding more people to be involved with that. Like whenever I also saw the supper club as being mobile, but like a caravan. And so I recently went and met a friend of mine in Uland, which is south of here. And she was in one spot and I was right next to her. So we were able to work at an RV resort, at Old El Camino RV Resort in Uland. And we knocked so many great things out because she's in South Dakota and I'm here. So she just came down and we parked next to each other and we just it was like all intuition all week long. It was awesome. And so like, even when I do things like that, people can come see me at like RV sites or like parks or whatever. So yeah.
That is cool. Let's see, because I was looking at some of the some of the questions. Don't need that. Don't need
Get that out of here. Get that out of here.
But now some of the clients that you've had that you don't I don't need to know names and stuff like that unless they're up for it, unless you're up for it. Some of the people that you've worked with in film, television, CEOs,
Mm-hmm.
doctors,
Mm-hmm.
government. Any examples?
Um, well, I will tell you in a very vague and kind of probably not very well cloaked way, but I had something come through once that I made a phone call about a very public figure. And when I made the phone call, I got bounced around, bounced around, bounced around, and I left a message in a voicemail. And I kind of like was like, okay, I did what I was supposed to do. And then I went and took a shower. And when I came back and picked up my phone, I had all these missed calls, and my phone rang while I was in, like when I was sitting there with my phone in my hand, and it was someone calling me from the Secret Service.
Whoa.
So, yeah. And so, I found out that that message that I had left was for this person's, private detail, like the top person that safeguards the person I was calling about. And when I was told that, I was like, this is real. This threat that I received is real. And so I hope you take it seriously. Sometimes whenever, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that called about it. I mean, I know that whenever something gets sent out, especially something like this, I'm not the only person that receives it. Like, people receive it in different ways. But, so that's one that I always I can talk about it now because it happened so long ago. But also, I had a very, very, very big producer that I had been contacted by a director and a producer to do a show about the Traveling Psychic Supper Club. And it was what was created, and this is no shade on anybody that was part of that project, but it just wasn't in the right vein of how I really saw it being. It was more presented as reality TV, and whenever I was seeing it, I was like, this is really going to be more, I mean, it's actually more like documentary style, which I actually, I do think there's still a space for that, where it's not like all glitz and, stuff like that. I'm not into that at all. In fact, I used to think like, oh my God, what a nightmare, like being on reality TV. And then someone reached out to me with the option to do that. And I was like, I'm not sure about this, but I did it, and I learned a lot about what I don't want to do. But we had taken that. In fact, I think you can still see that sizzle reel on the internet somewhere. We had been working with the Weinstein Company, and which I ended up canceling that whole contract because I didn't want them to be able to take this idea later and go do it without me. And so, because it's like my concept, it's my, like, I own the name and everything. But we had taken it to Real Screen, which is a big conference. It was in DC. I think it was in DC that year, but I met a producer there that everybody, God, like everybody, I couldn't talk to him for more than a second without somebody coming and being like, oh my God, like trying to pitch him something, or, not like, there was no space. And I had heard him speak. Actually, my husband sent me something and was like, hey, this just got added. You should go see this person speak. I sat in the front row, and when it was over, I just walked up to him and I was like, hey, do you want to go get a drink with me? Like, you want to meet me for a beer or something? And he was like, yes, walk with me. And so we were walking, made a plan for later. But when we did meet, all these people kept coming up to him. And at one point I was getting frustrated because I was like, this is annoying. I was trying to have like an intuitive conversation with this person, and I couldn't. And he just stopped and he looked at me and he was like, you really need to consider if this is what you want your life to be like, because this is what this looks like. And when he did that, I burst into tears. Like, I just was like, I do not want this. And this was over 10 years ago when we were there at Real Screen. And I've learned so much now that I am a really good behind the scenes worker, but I also have been shown, like, at some point I will have to be standing forward a little bit more, at which I have come to accept, but only on my terms. Like, not that somebody else says, oh, trust me, this is the best way to do this. Because I'll be real honest with you. When we were working on that project, I kept telling the director, I was saying, I keep seeing this on Netflix. Netflix was brand new. Like, this was before Orange is the New Black. This was like right when Netflix was transitioning from, remember when you would get two DVDs in the mail?
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have to turn them back in?
Box. It was like around the time of Redbox.
Yeah, well, but this was like, Netflix was super into like forward thinking, whatever it is, when you're before your time, because you could on the computer, which brand new, the internet was new, you could have a queue where they would send you two videos, two DVDs. You'd watch them. When you sent them back, you'd get the next ones in your queue. Well, they were just they still do offer that, which is so funny to me. But when they were transitioning to streaming, because streaming was starting to be a thing. And so, so Netflix was, they were just starting to bring in like their own programming. And I remember like Orange is the New Black was just getting started. And I was like, man, Netflix is where I see us being. But my director kept saying, no, we need to be on the networks. And so I was just like, I don't see that. Well, now, I mean, fast forward all this time, and the networks have kind of died. I mean, everything is streaming now. And so they're trying to kind of play catch up. But I think the funniest thing, not funny, one of the most interesting things was, so Harvey Weinstein had taken a real interest in our project, and he had lunch with the head of A&E and pitched our show. And the head of A&E said, we're not doing anything with women right now. Like, it's all men. It's like men is where it's at. And like, now look at where we are. Like, women are moving forward so much more. And there's a lot of, and this is, again, I'm not trying to say anything about men or where they are, but like, people that are not forward thinking are not moving forward. And especially like people that are stuck in old ways of doing things. And so that's what I'm seeing a lot of, is women moving forward, and then men that can move alongside them and move forward are going to be pulled up with women. But if they can't, like, it's kind of dunsies.
Some of the old ways of thinking are starting to
falling apart. Yeah, those towers are falling, the ivory towers.
Yes,
to bring in a terror reference, but yeah.
Well, we're about to the end of our show.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, that's all. Tell you what, it's I think we've got enough material for probably another episode, probably in later on and stuff like that. And
nice.
But
well, do your editing magic and figure it out. I don't do any of that, so I have a lot of respect for people that can edit and put things together. So
it used to take me a long time for like a couple minutes and stuff. It would take me hours. But now, after working on new programs and stuff, if you know what you want, if you know exactly what you are looking for choreographically, then it's a lot easier. But if you're dabbling with it and stuff, and you're kind of like, I don't know what I want, and you're just putting a puzzle where you think you want it, it'll take forever.
Well, I told you, I think I have a lot to learn from you. So I definitely also want to just keep this conversation going now that we know that we can actually connect to each other.
Yeah, definitely. But what we could do too is, as far as doing another show, because what I can do is we can end. How much time do you have today?
I have about 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Before I need to leave and be somewhere else. I know it's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
But we'll schedule it.
Yeah, we can schedule one in a couple weeks or whatnot. Just let me know, and then sit down and pick another topic, or get a little bit more into the supper club.
Sure,
or if
sure.
there's something new that you're kind of working on, we can
That could very
discuss,
well be happening. Yeah.
discuss that.
Yeah.
Or maybe do some readings.
I would love, and I thought we would do that today. So
Mhm.
I am ready. Like, you just tell me and we'll make some times and dates happen and
Awesome.
have at it.
Cool. Awesome. 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 Deborah, thank you, my friend. Namaste. Good luck with your travels and blessings to you. You're doing awesome work, great work, and you are a blessing to a lot of people out there that need the help.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having me on. I mean, just to be able to spend time, I'm very grateful for it. And I'm just always humbled whenever someone reaches out to me, because I'm like, little old me.
Likewise, humbled to have you in our presence and being on the show. And like always, welcome back anytime.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'll
Awesome.
take you up on it.
You are very, very welcome. Thank you. And everybody, thank you for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Weekly Seance. And until next time, we will see you next week.